Vivian, hello.
Thank you for that question, Vivian.
I'm thinking.
Hello, Vivian. My question to you is something that I know you deal with and have dealt with in so many different ways in your work. So I guess it's a repeat question, but I wondered if you could just tell me or formulate an answer for me now in this context about reading and what the activity of reading is to you and how it takes place in your life.
It means the world to me. It's solace, it's consolation, it's company, it's excitement, it's peace, it's being in the world, out of the world. It's all of those things. Where do I read? Since the pandemic, my reading actually became more organized than it ever has been before. So for this whole past year, I read 4 hours a day, usually between 4 and 8, and lying on my bed with the cats, with my cats on the bed with me. When the cats are curled up beside me and I'm propped up against the pillows and reading at 4 in the afternoon, I am utterly and entirely at peace. I've known other writers who were translators, and what I've always wondered is how translating has affected your writing rather than the other way around. I can easily see how your own writing would nourish the act of translation. But has translating itself ever suggested to you things that became usable for you in your own actual writing?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that question, Vivian. Very currently, very much at the moment, I've just begun a new translation project, a novel called in French Lily Pleure, Lily's Crying by Hélène Bessette. And she wrote these extraordinary, to my mind, lineated novels. So novels which use the line and spacing and rhythm in very particular, I think, very exciting ways. And there's something of the kind of energy that's happening, energy and boldness and courage that I identify in Bessette's sentences, and especially her use of the page space, actually, which is something that really interests me in my work and something I try and work with, which is definitely infecting and energizing me back. And although Bessette is already kind of influencing my manner or giving me new permission, I think, in my manner of writing the long form, I hope that translating her work might lead to a kind of new sequence of works, actually, that are kind of directly or indirectly informed by translating. So it seems that unlike your friends who are writers bring writing to bear on translating, I think for me it's the other way around. I think translating is what opens up writing for me.
Michael, I understand that for you, storytelling is a central value. And I, who am a nonfiction writer, I also have the same need, the same interest, the same central motivation, which is to tell a story. And when you're writing nonfiction, that's not so easy to identify, to know, you don't have an easy plot to follow. You have to make a plot out of the structure of the piece you're writing. And I guess that's it, essentially. You have to make a story out of the structure of the musical, I guess, that you're writing. And I wonder how you go about that.
I find that the main units of storytelling in musicals are the songs themselves. So those are like mini structures within a sort of Uber structure. And so those songs, for me, become the way forward and the sort of first act, second act, third act of any story structure that I'm making. And so I find those just by sort of going line by line, by thinking about characters, what they want, what their obstacles are, and whether they are able to get past those obstacles or not. So those songs become the sort of mini structures, and then the progression of those mini structures becomes the Uber structure.
Vivian, hello. I want to know, what is the greatest, smallest thing you've been given?
So I'll take it in the abstract. We're not going to do this materially because there's nothing material that I value. I don't know how small this is. It's not very large, but it's large enough. My ability to give up grudges quickly is something I value immensely. And I feel that's been given to me. I don't feel I worked so hard for it. I feel that was given to me. Renee, I wonder if you could respond to this question. What, if any, relationship does your work have to a responding readership? Is that a necessity for you? Or are you writing from within a kind of an enclosed set of references?
I think it's really hard to make enclosed sets of references because everything is always opening outward. I'm really happy to have readers, and I think that's really important. And I think because I've been writing so long, I must be aware that these are works that will be read and will be responded to. But I think for me, the wonder of writing is less about that connection than about what it feels like to write, what it feels like to imagine in a fictional space or in a progressing space or in a linear space. And I think that's what's more exciting to me, or what's most exciting is that experience of being in my body in this place and time, producing text, producing narrative or sentences.
Natalie, I understand that a great deal of your work is involved with borders. I can understand that preoccupation, and certainly it's a worthy one. I'm wondering if you find ways to indicate internal borders, the psychological borders within us, the emotional borders, are the things that both protect and constrain us.
So one of the things that I think when you grow up on a border space that you're acutely aware of is that borders are both absolutely physically real, but they're also absolutely imagined. And so for me, for a lot of my work, what I'm interested in is confusing and questioning and using the physical space of the border and of border crossing as a metaphorical landscape for speakers who are constantly being placed in situations, emotional situations, psychological situations that are similar to the physical border space that they live in, right? So for me, when I think about the speakers of my poems, the border and its dangers and its violence are absolutely real, but those dangers and that violence also takes a huge toll on the psyche of those speakers. And they are constantly trying to cross those borders, both the physical ones and the ones that manifest themselves within.
Vivian, is nation a useful category for a writer?
Any category that is metaphorically suggestive to you is of use to a writer. The question of how you organize the elements of a metaphor is what's at stake. So I remember a time in my own life when the social forces of life seemed utterly paramount. And I was raised in a household where class struggle was everything. So in the beginning of my writing life, for instance, I saw human beings up against forces they could neither understand or control, that were external to them. In that sense, I would say nationhood, or a sense of place in the world, was very acute. Now, it's interesting, I, as a young woman, the daughter of working class Jewish immigrants, I never would have described myself as an American, but I would certainly have described myself as a New Yorker. New York was my country. In other words, the incredible urbanness of life was had a very profound effect upon me. And that went hand in hand with class struggle. In time, the elements of struggle turned inward, and class struggle gave way to struggle with my own subconscious. And that became a more to the point for me. But it's whatever it is that is, as I say, metaphorically suggestive, is the way to go.